So for this, getting started here, you're going to be splitting your page into 3 panels, right? Orientating this page vertically, and then our vanishing points are going to go at the top of every panel. And so each panel will kind of have the exact same perspective setup because we're trying to maximize the amount of space that we're fitting in to have these panels looking good. And so that is, for anyone curious, we want these panels to actually look equal. That's 5 and 2/3 inches, right? 17 divided by 3, 5 and 2/3, 5 and 2/3, 5 and 2/3. So I'd go mark those out when you do your panels because we'll be working on this all week. And so you have a good amount of time. We want to make this one pretty. We will be doing a critique Monday when we come back from spring break. And so, try to get these to look nice. This will be kind of a showy piece. And so some things that I'm looking for specifically are going to be 3 panels, and I'm doing it clean. This is really a draftsmanship heavy assignment. I really want your work to read on this one. Read clear, have nice line work. A big guiding light in this whole assignment is, above all, does it look good? When you make decisions, hopefully they are properly measured and you're setting up everything correctly in perspective. But sometimes it might just get like a little too complex. You can't quite see the lines that you're doing. And so when you're placing things, are you placing aesthetic looking, good looking lines? Are your forms looking like they make sense, that they're presentable, that there's consistency, right, in the size of your squares, in the size of your tires, all of that. So that's, above all, does it look good? This one might be a slightly harder graded assignment, seeing as we have a whole week to do, 3 relatively small drawings that also aren't that simple or, aren't that complex. They're still basic boxes. So make it look nice, right? I'm here to practice draftsmanship, right? We're getting perspective, but draftsmanship is a big deal. So all of these will be 2-point perspective, no 3-point. We're going to be doing draw-throughs. So if you notice, I'm coming down here. There's this tire in the back, which I lowered I erased a little bit softly and lowered the opacity of. But that information is still there, as well as the back, the actual draw-throughs for the base of this vehicle. You're seeing those back lines. And so it might be not super clear, right? It's not like it needs to jump out in your face, but you do need to have done them, and there needs to be some semblance of information that you did in fact do them. That's what I'm really looking for and care about. And so some setup information that's important here. When you find your reference photo, this was my reference photo, you're going to be designing your orthographic proportions. Mine right here is a 3x5, but that does not mean that yours needs to be a 3x5 for all of your vehicles. It depends on the proportions of your vehicle. Normally, I would recommend we use large vehicles because large vehicles tend to have large tires. You can make your tires also a little bit proportionately bigger if it comes down to it. But I would recommend having the tire size take up one cube space. Right? Yours could possibly be a 2x4. Maybe you do a monster truck and the proportions something like that, right? So these orthographic proportions are totally flexible to the actual design of your vehicle, right? That is your choice. If it's maybe you find some really goofy tall vehicle and your orthographic is, I don't know, 3x4 vertically, whatever. That's totally up to the design of your vehicle and the choice of your actual vehicle. So does not need to be 3x5 for the orthographics or 3x3 from the front view. That is a design choice that is totally up to you. But with that being said, we're going to be breaking it down into its most simple shapes that you can possibly do. And so you're going to need to take some creative liberties with this assignment. This is not one where your reference photo will have everything perfectly outlined. This was my reference photo. This is a front loader, right? It's got a big bucket on the front. But if we flip back and forth, it's not like my proportions are spot on, right? The width of my drawing is a little bit wider. the overall proportions of everything are just a little bit off. The arm, right? The arm here that's actually connecting the bucket to the vehicle is thinner and longer. You have creative liberty. Your design is actually going to heavily come from when you do this step. So you will be making design choices to simplify the vehicles of your choice. You will be simplifying them pretty heavily. And so I would think about how you can break these down into their most, what's the core of this thing? I needed the bucket. I wanted big, large tires. I thought getting this L shape was very important. And then as well, having it, this L being kind of in line with the axle of this tire, right? So so that there's counterbalance, right? It's picking up things in the front. That means most of the weight of this vehicle needs to be toward the back, so that when it picks up heavy things, it doesn't fall over. And so that's why, right? The primary design choices, all good stuff. So with that being said, I'm going to go into a time lapse of me actually making this, and I'll give commentary over top, because I think that'll work better for this assignment, as the demo was a little bit long. That's the plan. So here we're drawing our orthographic. I'm placing my tires conveniently, as you should, right on their own blocks, and then I'm making sure, right, it's a heavy loader or front loader, and so I want most of the weight to be shifted, over the tires and towards the back. I'm connecting the bucket with an arm. I made a design choice. Technically, the bucket is kind of the same width as our tires here, but I decided to make it a little bit thinner in terms of width from the front angle, just because it adds a little bit. I don't know. I thought it added a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of dimensionality, and that's our top. And so now I'm establishing our leading edge. I know what height I want this to be, right? I want this vehicle to take up most of our panel, and so I'm immediately establishing what that 3-box tall vertical will be. And now I'm using a technique where I throw an X across just a plane of any size, right? Because the left leading edge vertical is what I care about. I like that height, and so now I wanted to split it into 3 boxes, right? I want to split this vertical into 3 equally sized pieces, and so what I can do is I can throw an X. I can use that middle line that the X creates, right? I can pull that to the edge, and I can create a V, and using that V, wherever the V intersects with the X, I can actually pull out lines, and those are my third lines. I'll draw that on the board so that we are all on the same page there. And if you ever have confusions about it, you can talk to me. But now, previously I kind of made us slow down our process a bit and tediously duplicate every box one by one with an X. But you can actually just, if you establish a really nice center line that divides your lines in half, you can use this diagonal trick, the same exact thing that we did last project, but with less X's, because you use an X to find the middle of your object, but technically the middle should be the same. I made you do more work to learn the technique better for the first time, but now we can start cutting some corners, right? We know the technique. We got some decent reps in. We can start cutting corners about how to actually duplicate boxes. And so right now I'm just fleshing out all of our forms, establishing, just like we did for our Simple Shapes project, all of the planes. And I actually didn't do every single plane in this one. I did the back, I did the front, I did the floor plane. But then some of them is on a case-by-case basis. Every tier wasn't necessary here. And so if I did if I fleshed out every single plane that exists in this object, it'd just be a 3x5. Jeez. And so now I'm actually drawing my object. And just like with Simple Shapes, I'm converting my orthographic view into my actual 3D plans. I'm starting with the tires. You're going to want to start with your tires. Establish all 4 tires. Mine were half of a thickness of a unit, and so that's what I did. Taking up 1 full box on the front face and with a thickness of half a box, establishing all 4 right off the bat. And then I'm going to get into the actual body. And so to get into the body, I'm throwing X's. And so this is a specific design choice related to my orthographics and my vehicle. I'm using the X as a reference point. The center of the X is aligned with my orthographic of where the bottom corner of the actual primary box of the body of our vehicle is. And so it was a perfect reference point for me to establish. You probably won't do that, but it's always looking for these ideas and good reference points when you have objects kind of inset and inlaid into your, into the frame and not hugging the outer wall. Anyways, I actually make a mistake here where I'm having the orthographic, where I'm trying to translate this orthographic, but my shape is into the interior of the object, and so it doesn't perfectly translate. And so I'm using this kind of box setup where I'm drawing the orthographic where it's in line with the front face of the tire, and then actually using the tire as a reference point to push those lines back into space and have them correctly going backwards and protruding as they should be. And so now I'm just finishing up the actual body of the vehicle and starting with the bucket, setting up the base there, having a little bit of tweaking, top plane, angling my lines as much as I want, and then I'm gonna set up the actual arm. How it's functioning, moving the bucket up and down. This is just gonna be one big box where I'm establishing where it connects to the vehicle and then where it connects to the bucket, and then just connect the dots with those lines and finishing it up. So we're getting to the end here. I'm just doing some of my draw through lines of the actual back of the body, making sure everything looks right. But I want to tell you to make sure to take your time with this. I actually cropped out a lot of video footage of me kind of troubleshooting things, right? Where it's not quite lining up. Oh, I didn't quite do this correctly. You're going to have to do a good amount of troubleshooting, right? That's being a designer, being an artist. You have a creative problem in front of you. This isn't the most I'll admit it, not the most crazily interesting creative problem that could be proposed to you. But there is going to be troubleshooting that you're going to run into, walls you're going to hit, and I trust in your ability to work through them. I'm obviously there as well, right? If there's something that you think I could help with, yeah, totally. Come and give me. But just expect to have, if you want this to look good, if you want this to look super clean, you're going to run into a couple walls. You'll work through them. It'll be great. With that being said, I will turn it back to me. Best of luck with this project, y'all. Yeah.